Jack Carey has good reason to whistle. He's a contented fellow, a fellow who's found his niche in life. Snowshoes. Yes, snowshoes. But not just any snowshoes. These snowshoes. The snowshoes Jack makes himself, the type he spent years perfecting. They're Jack Carey's beaver tails, the snowshoe that's become his obsession. Jack Carey's become a kind of expert in snowshoe making. He's not the only fellow around who knows how to make a pair, but he's certainly the only one who's made thousands. Once he figured out how to do it, snowshoe making became a kind of hobby for Jack, a hobby that now keeps him busier than most full-time jobs. I'm Pauline Thornhill. This week on Land and Sea, we'll see just how big the demand is for Jack Carey snowshoes. At 66 years old, his are big shoes to fill. Of all the things a fellow could be known for, who'd ever think snowshoes?
Now, when the phone rings, 85% of the time people say, "Is this a snowshoe man?" And people up in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, over in Peachland, over in British Columbia, people everywhere. They phone up and they know, true friends, that I make snowshoes. And when they phone me, I'm a snowshoe man. Or sometimes I'll be down to the store, one of the stores, and I'm walking along and a little kid will say, "Look, Mommy, there's a snowshoe man," So, well, that's fine. I don't mind being called a snowshoe man. It's okay.
Jack didn't always make snowshoes, but he's walked a good many miles in them. Jack lives in Corner Brook on Newfoundland's west coast. He's spent a lot of time in these woods over the years, cutting wood, rabbit catching, fishing, and in winter, there's no doing any of that without snowshoes.
I'll tell you, one time my friend and I, we went to Silver Pond before the road was through, and we were on Skidoo, and Skidoo broke down. Well, I guess we must have been 19 or 20 miles from the nearest camp, Labrador Linerboard camp was out there then, and we had to walk out to that. And we left about 6:45 in the morning. It was hard going, and we got there about 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the night, and we had nothing to eat all day. Tough going. Well, we just made it, I think. If we hadn't had the snowshoes, we would never have made it.
Jack grew up with the conventional wooden snowshoe, the snowshoe that got him started. He was only about 17 in the woods one day, and he managed to break the only 2 pairs of snowshoes he owned. He couldn't afford to buy new ones, so he decided to try and make a pair. That was the beginning of it. But Jack didn't get serious about snowshoe making until many, many years later, when the Canadian National Railway closed. Jack had worked with CN for 28 years. When the railway stopped running, he was 48 years old and out of a job. What was he going to do? Make snowshoes.
I remember one time when I started, I made 70 pairs, and they weren't moving. And I got right disgusted. I said, I'm not going to make any more snowshoes. It's only a waste of time and all. And one day, the purchasing agent from the Bowater Paper Company phoned me, and he said, "You make snowshoes?" I said, "Yes." "Yeah." He said, "I heard you make good snowshoes." I said, "Yes, I do. Make the best snowshoes." So he said, "Do you think you could get me 3 dozen pairs by next week?" I said, "Well, yes, I think I could." So I had them down to the next day. I had them made. So I came home and there was twine going everywhere, and I was making snowshoes,
That was 18 years ago.
I'd say I'm getting up now to about, got an age now, but to about, must be 6,000 pairs. So that's 12,000 snowshoes, Yeah. So I don't like to call myself an expert, but if you do something that often, it's pretty well the same. You've got to become good at it. You expect to, or if you don't, there's something wrong with you.
When we come back, we'll see this one-man snowshoe factory in action. Look no further than 71 Clarence Street in Corner Brook. It's been a long time since Jack's made a wooden snowshoe. The frames of his snowshoes are steel. This contraption is something he came up with to measure frames for children's snowshoes. With this, he can cut a lot of frames quickly. If a child can walk, Jack says they're old enough to snowshoe. He's made pairs for children less than 3 years old. The first was for his daughter, Jeannie. At the time, Jack was experimenting with different materials in his basement.
And my daughter used to be down in the, she's a little girl, 3 years old. She used to come down in the brick room with me. And one day she said, "Dad, make a pair of snowshoes for me." Well, I said, "What kind do you want?" And I was trying to get them made out of metal. Well, she said, "I'd like to have the good one, the wooden ones." So I made her a pair of wooden ones. I still got them in the basement there, but I finally come now, I don't make any wooden ones anymore.
No, now it's steel all the way, and not just any steel. Jack uses high tensile spring steel in his snowshoes, the stuff they used to use in pre-stressed concrete. Why, you ask?
Well, because it's so strong. I've never, ever had a pair. One guy brought a pair back to me broke, and they were broken up there. He had to run over a tractor or something, because that is impossible, you know, on their snowshoeing condition. You can't. There's no way you can break that. And besides that, it's very light in weight, very strong. It has a certain amount of give in it. There's some metals you use is very subtle, like you'll sink, you know, it'll bend, and it's very tiring, you know, you're going on and the snowshoes are all giving, like bending. But these won't. You just put the rod in the frame, and you close off all the bar bolts and this adjustment here to keep it in place. And when you get this bent, I'll bend it. Go in. You drop a reinforcing pin in on the joint behind, and then you weld it.
The steel is key to his snowshoe success, Jack thinks, and a closely guarded secret. Jack will tell you what kind of steel he uses, but he won't tell you where he gets it. Apparently, it's not that easy to come by. All he'd tell us was that after years of searching, he finally found a supplier on the mainland.
A trade secret. Because, you know, any fool can make a snowshoe, but you've got to have the materials. And I have one, as far as I'm concerned, not bragging, as far as I'm concerned, I have one of the best snowshoes on the market. And I don't want to destroy my own market. So if people want this type of snowshoe, they come to me.
From the shed to the basement. This is phase 3, the tedious task of washing and cutting the thick inner tubes that cover the snowshoe frame and become the foot harness.
You don't have to be crazy to do this, but it helps. But like I say, it's a necessary evil. You have to have it. Or at least I have to have it. But the tubes are becoming harder and harder to get because there are not so many tubeless, there are mostly tubeless tires now. Tubes are not used very much anymore. So eventually I'll have to go to something else, but I just don't know what yet, what it will be.
The tubes are from tractor-trailer tires. The material Jack uses for the mesh in his snowshoes is the stuff of dragger nets, the exact same twine they use offshore. Jack has a road map on the wall, markings which tell him exactly how much twine he needs for whatever size snowshoe he's making. Children's, adults, small, medium, or large.
My wife doesn't appreciate it very much, but there are marks all down through the hall. I know which one is which. If you put a mark there, and it's too much, whatever you have left over, you shorten up your mark by that, you know, by that much. Or if it's not enough, you increase it a little. And then after 2 or 3 pairs, you get it right down pretty close. You never get the exact, but close enough that you don't have too much wastage.
If the early native snowshoe makers had had this twine, they probably would have used it too. Rawhide leather stretches when it gets wet, and it isn't as durable, but this stuff stands up to quite a lot. So does Jack. It's no easy task making snowshoes all day long.
First when I started, like even putting the rubber on, I couldn't do it probably 6 or 7 frames until I got used to it. It used to make my arms and wrists sore and it'd make tired. It'd be actually ache. But now it doesn't matter. I can do 20 or 30 pairs in a day.
But he can't web that many. Jack has knit 8 pairs in a day, but that's the exception rather than the rule. Normally, he's satisfied if he finishes 4 pairs.
The hardest part is getting it committed to your memory. The different ways you got to put the twine. And it's very difficult sometimes to remember, especially, when your mind starts to wander and you'll make a mistake. And if you're young, you'll cry, but then if you're old like I am, you tend to swear a lot. So, because you got to go back and fix it.
Jack's wife, Teresa, knows all about it. She spends a lot of time in the computer room these days, having sacrificed her rec room to the cause.
All during the winter he sells them, and he's about the only person on the street really that's always praying for snow. We don't have a neighbor that's really talking to us during the winter because they all know Jack is praying for snow.
It befell my lot in life to be a snowshoe maker, and I'm quite happy about it. I had a great life, and I'm quite contented with my wife and family, and now I'm making snowshoes, and that's fine. I don't think I'll ever be able to become a millionaire, but then, I don't know if you can mention names, but Donald Trump is not all that happy either, He's got problems still.
I'm certainly not known as the snowshoe woman, but he is known as the snowshoe man. A lot of people do identify when we go downtown or anything. Oh, I know you. You're the snowshoe man. But
Do you get a charge out of that?
Oh, definitely. And so does he, of course. The more recognition he gets, the better he likes it.
People ask me, do I think I make the best snowshoes, And I said, well, yes. If I say yes, you'll think I'm bragging. And if I say no, you'll call me a liar. So what the hell am I going to do? Yes, I got the best snowshoe. Sure I have. And I'm very proud of it.
So we know how Jack feels about his snowshoes, but what do other people think? We'll find out right after the break. Jack's first big snowshoe sale was to the pulp and paper mill in Corner Brook, the time the purchasing agent called looking for 3 dozen pairs. Stu Weldon used to be Woodland's manager at the mill. He can see how Jack's snowshoe is well suited for winter field work.
It's that thing about the compactness when they're going in through the woods doing their cruising jobs or road layout. They got to get in some tight places, and of course the snowshoes, tie on the back of the skidoo so nicely, and thick woods and that sort of thing. They're compact and small, and the fellows can get around in the real thick stuff a lot easier.
Stu only has his own wood to worry about now. He retired 7 years ago. But he hasn't slowed down much. Between his cottage here on the Humber River and his home in Corner Brook, Stu goes through about 8 cords of wood a winter. That's wood he cuts himself, so he's in the country a lot. And when he goes, Jack's snowshoes go with him.
Jack's snowshoes, of course, they're so simple. Like I said, Jack doesn't like me putting them on this way, and maybe he puts them on that way. But anyway, they're so simple to put on. You just, put your foot in like that, backwards, and turn, and you're ready to go. It's just like that. And again, when you want to get out of them, you just put your foot on one side there like that, and pull your foot back and around like that, and you don't even have to bend over. So when you get over like me, they're so much easier to use. You do have to bend over and pick them up. There's such an efficient, light, compact. Just feel it. It's just so light.
It's true. It's true.
There's nothing to
There's
it.
nothing to them at all.
No,
That's
no.
right. That's right.
I mean, even if you're when you're out snaring rabbits or something like that, and you want to walk a distance when you got a hard trail, and you want to put in your pack sack. I mean, they're tying on the back of your pack sack. You don't even know they're there. And then when your skidoo gets bogged down, sometimes they're a great shovel, of course.
I like to say this, it has the innate tendency to, or propensity to regain its former configuration. I love saying that.
But what does it mean?
It means that it's always pressing outward. If the wooden one, if it gets wet, it'll collapse in on itself, right? And the line will all tangle up. But this one has the tendency to spread itself. It's a spring steel. And when you walk on it, and any snowshoe, when your weight goes down, especially if you're walking on very uneven ground, something has to give. So this will close in, but it'll immediately go back. So it regains its former shape.
So do you get to the point, Glenn, where you don't even realize you have them on anymore?
Definitely.
Is that right, eh?
Most times for lunch, I won't even take them off. I'll stop and have a cup of tea, leave my snowshoes on, and go on again when I'm finished. Sure.
Glenn Mead is a man who knows snowshoes. Glenn's been teaching forestry at the College of the North Atlantic in Corner Brook for 17 years now. And at least twice a week, Glenn has his students out here, from the first snowfall to the last. So snowshoes are a course requirement. Every student has to have a pair. And Glenn recommends Jack's.
I remember that saying after a season with them that, God, you're good snowshoes, and they don't fall off your feet, and they're easy to put on, and, they're a good price. Yeah, I found the students always had good things to say about Jack's snowshoes. And Scatter student would spend $150, $200 on a pair of Canadian Tire snowshoes, and they never seemed to last. And they always had more problem and more difficulty with the straps. And they certainly weren't homemade in Newfoundland like Jack's snowshoes.
It's all music to Jack Carey's ears, the man who'll put his snowshoe up against any other.
I find that Jack's, they hold up the best, and they're the most comfortable snowshoe that I have ever worn. And like I say, and I've tried a few, and I've seen students try different ones, and it always seems to come back to a reliable snowshoe that's easy to take on and easy to take off, and it's lightweight and really good for our snow conditions. I've never used them outside of Newfoundland, so I can't speak on that, but I think they could fit in anywhere.
It's embarrassing, to have to admit to perfection. But sometimes I guess, it's inevitable. It's terrible to be 66 years old before you can say that, isn't it?
The Snowshoe Man is a title Jack obviously wears proudly. He's come a long way from the time when he couldn't afford to buy a pair. A long, long way.
By the way, somebody asked me how long do I intend to go on with this? As long as I can, because I'm going to be dead a long while. But while I can do it, I'm going to do it, A lot of people, my relatives, and that say, oh, that's too hard for you now, it's too hard, but it's not too hard, I enjoy it. It's my hobby. So,
Yep, Jack Carey is a fellow with good reason to whistle.
A co-production of Lucatoon Productions and NTV Newfoundland. Land and Sea is provided by the Derek and Mary Hanrahan Foundation and by Merck.
Merck Pharmaceutical Research, dedicated to preventing disease. Merck, committed to bringing out the best in medicine.
And by the Canadian Broadcast Corporation.
The Canadian Broadcast Corporation. Many Canadians today strive to make a difference in everyday life. The Canadian Broadcast Corporation.
And by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. Be sure to check out more Land and Sea episodes coming soon.